I'm with the Now robot, and I know we've talked about it before, but we actually had it demonstrate some of its capabilities with our State Superintendent, Glenda Ritz.
Hello, and welcome, Glenda Ritz. I am so happy that you are here at our 2015 PATINS Tech Expo. I know you are busy being the Superintendent of Public Instruction for Indiana. You'd like to make changes for students, just like myself and all of the PATINS staff. My name is Ophi. Ophi is the abbreviated name of a figuroid, which is a brittle starfish. I have this meaningful name for PATINS because of the creative and wonderful teacher, Amber Wolf at Cliffy Creek Elementary School. Students all over the state of Indiana will say my name. My name could possibly be the first word ever spoken by a student who is nonverbal. My name will bring students with disabilities many smiles, many lessons, and a lot of interaction. Students with disabilities will engage with me as I recognize their face as they approach me and I say their name. I will be their friend, and they will be mine. Together we will be social, we will learn, and we will move. This name means a lot to the PATINS staff and to myself because everything we do for the starfish. Mrs. Ritz, have you read the story of the starfish? If you have not, please read that story. We make a difference, just like you do, Mrs. Ritz. All students do matter. They matter to us. If anyone here has a student in mind that you think I should meet, please talk to one of the staff members. I love field trips. Let me know how I can help your students. We will learn, laugh, and share and continue to help amazing young humans be the best. Them, PATINS, and myself will remain your resource in helping you along the way. They love young humans just as much as I do. Glenda Ritz, thank you again for coming to visit us. It has been a pleasure meeting you. You can trust that the students in Indiana are in good hands. We will continue to do great things for them.
Well, I think that's the most unique introduction I have ever had, and the most unique welcome. That's very exciting. Thank you. So I am pleased to be here, and actually almost invited myself to this event because I've been traveling around the state of Indiana 2 to 3 days a week. And it's come to my attention in no small manner that we have students that we need to serve with assistive technology and devices and software, and kids have needs. And so when I go around from around to the different schools, I see varying degrees of that. And the mission of the Department of Education is to build an education system of equity and high quality focused on student-centered accountability. So when I do not see the equity of accessibility to devices and equipment that can serve the needs of our students, then I'm all about getting some resources together to make sure that that happens. So this is a group of special educators or have an interest in the needs of special education students, and I wanted to be sure that I addressed you today. So I am licensed in special education, library science, and general education. And I have spent time working with students from the most severe of needs to the students who are gifted. And I've taught at the elementary and the middle and the high school levels. So with my very, very broad perspective, I am all about individualization. And I'm all about making sure that students have what they should need in order to have opportunities when they leave our K-12 system. So with that, I'll tell you a quick little story. One of my very first job, and I'm a very tenacious person, as you might have already guessed from the news and the political pieces that are going on with me. I'm a very tenacious person at getting done what we need to get done for children, and I have always been that way. And so my first job, I was a teacher assistant in a special education co-op. And for some reason, I knew I wanted to work in MSD Washington Township in Indianapolis. That was just like the place where I was going to work and have my special education services. And when I got my degree at Ball State University, at the time I received my degree, if you majored in special education and you worked 6 years in that field, then your loans were forgiven. And so when I began my pursuit of education and I got my general education degree, of course a special education degree was going to be attached to that. So I had a double major, and that was the best training I ever got in my life, and went back to get my master's degree to work specifically also with students that had emotional needs to get more training in that area. But I was tenacious in where I wanted to work, and I don't even remember the whys, but I called up the special ed director in Washington Township every week. Like every week I called her up. And Mary Pickerel called me in April of the school year in which I was being a teacher assistant in my first career. And she said, Glenda, she says, I know that you will be available. And I said, you're offering me a job in April? And they were splitting up a class of special needs students, that they had a class with younger students and older students. And one of the students that was older had overturned the wheelchair of a student that was younger, and they needed to split the class. And so my first job was with 4 students, 4 kids. And 3 of the 4 students, they were older students, ranging from 14 to I think 19 at that time, and we, of course, students stayed till 21. And some of them had no methods by which to communicate, ever. They had never worked with communication. So one of the parents, the student's name was Carrie, and the parents that I worked with, the parent would come in and every IEP would say, I want Carrie to talk. I want her to talk with me. And so every time we wrote an IEP, we talked about how Carrie was going to communicate with her, with her mother. So I went and took a sign language class at the School for the Deaf to learn functional sign language. And every time Carrie made a guttural sound that was approximating the word, the sound of K, then she would put the K sign up next to her, and that would be that you're saying her name. I taught her functional sign to use the restroom and whatever. In fact, 3 of the 4 kids we were doing sign language and functional work and pictures that you lay out, and I know most of you know about communication boards and things like that. But I never could promise the mother that Carrie was going to talk. So a few years in, I had these students for a full 6 years or more. I knew these students almost better than their parents did. And I said, she finally said to me, the mother, she says, Carrie's not going to talk to me, is she? I said, no, she's not going to talk with you in the fashion in which you are wanting her to, but does she communicate with you? And of course the answer was yes. So with today's technology advances, there's no reason ever that students should not have devices in their hands to be able to communicate their needs to whomever they're dealing with. It will help them in employment later on. They have to have devices on which to actually function and be communicative. So that's my main emphasis for coming here today. Kids have receptive language, as you all know, much more than they have perhaps communicative language. And so that receptive language tells you that the intelligence is there for children to go do whatever they might want to go do in a great many cases, if we find a way for them to be actually able to communicate what it is that they are thinking and what it is that they do. So I know that PATINS is very instrumental in making sure that you have the chance to get from their lending library, to actually try out different devices and try out what those look like, be able to get access to that. I came back to my department after going to several schools in which students were operating on old-fashioned Braille devices, and I'm like, why? So funding should not be an issue. I'm going to say that again. Funding should not be an issue. And you need to always be advocates for the students in your classroom, always. So if there's funding, we're going to be at the department's level, we're going to be looking at where are the needs, where are the funding streams, where are the grants that we can write, where are the partnerships that we can form to make sure that kids have what they need. Because there's just no excuse in today's society with the advancements that we have and the dollars that really are available out there to not have students with devices. And I'm also going to be investigating devices following the child. I get pretty upset when we purchase things at an elementary level, and then the student moves on to middle school, and they don't have the device now. I don't get that. And maybe it's because of a funding stream. Maybe it's because it was purchased by the school, and so now the school owns it. But devices sit in schools unused, which is a shame. So we have to get smart about how it is that we are perhaps going about our purchasing, how we can get it to the point where devices and updated devices are following the child, making sure that it not only happens at the school, but that they have access to it at the home. The home is just as important as the school with the students that have special needs, and we have to make sure that we are making those connections and making that happen. There just should not be excuses in today's world where we have ample funding. Truly, we do. We have ample funding for our special needs students, but I'm not so sure we're always so smart in what it is that we're doing with the monies to make sure that we're getting what we need for our kids. So I am just letting that out to you, and I wanted to make sure I talked with the group that actually works in this realm on a regular basis to make sure that we get what we need for our children. So I thank you for your service, and know that the Department of Education and my e-learning department and my technology department are working in concert to make sure that we get things going in this particular area of making sure kids have the resources and devices that they need. We'll be working closely with PATINS as we have in the past, but probably on a very more upscale fashion, being very intentional about what the needs of our kids are statewide and finding that out and making sure the dollars are going to be found to be available for making sure things happen. So thank you so much for your service, and have a great conference. Thank you.